years.
Okay, so what you see in front of you is the rear cover for the MFP. It's painted, it's assembled. It's not much to it. I mean, basically it had the two sides and the top, and I made a couple of dealies to let it set and hold it in place. I put everything in tight, and it's made to sit on the frame. The sucky part was I sprayed it with the same hammer paint that I used on the actual MFP, and well, you can see that or not, there's some hammering going on, but not nearly like it had with the first coat. This is the second coat, and the second coat didn't turn out nearly as good as the first coat. This was the first coat on the bottom, and I don't know if you guys can see that or not. See if I can zoom in a little bit. You see that hammered pretty good, and I actually had a pretty good hammered finish on the top as well, and then I decided it wasn't shiny and I wanted to make it shiny, so I gave it a second coat, and unfortunately, lo and behold, it pretty much got rid of all the hammer finish. But anyway, it's painted, it is what it is. So the next thing I got to do is go ahead and get my switch panel for the frequency counter on there, and also my little variable DC converter. Let me get you guys on a tripod and I'll show you what I got there. And to show you a couple things. Now, remember correctly, this was the original thing I made to hold the variable DC-DC converter power supply. I decided I didn't like that one so much because it's too square and boxy. This one's square and boxy as well, but this one basically, if I put it where you can see it, is black, and it leans backwards, so I'll be able to see it easier with it leaning backwards. And so it's got in there, and it'll contrast with the MFP like the rest of the black does. So that's that. Then I needed to make a switch panel for the frequency counter. So that's this. Got the on-off switch for it, and the BNC in and BNC out. Now, I got the wires I got to go in there. Obviously, they're here, here, and these. So I have to drill holes, and the switch itself is going to have a hole made for it because it needs to go down inside there in order for this to sit flat. But it's made to angle back like that. So I'm going to go ahead and drill the holes for these and get these mounted on there, and then I'll bring it back. Well, they're on there. See if we can zoom in a little bit. So I tried to get the switch plate for the frequency counter centered on it, and it's off slightly, but it's okay. This I just decided to put it over, center over the DMM. Makes it closer to the actual outputs down here below it. And then that leaves this other side over here open for other items if I want. I actually have some room back here if I ever have to have room for something back there. I'm going to show you here. Yeah, I've still got that much room over there. So I got to get these wired up, and then we will make sure that they work. Bring them back when I get that done. So I've made this cover so that it's quickly removable if I have to get in there and work on anything in there in the back. Let me show you what I mean. Turn this around. Alright. So, if you can see that, let me move it over a bit so you can kind of see the interface here. Yeah, so right here, I've made it so this block here and the one on the opposite side are flush when the thing's fully forward. But it really just sits there, and on the other side it kind of interlocks under the transformer, so it's kind of in place that way. I think what I'm going to do is add a screw to the side on each side, just a small screw, just to hold everything nice and tight. But it actually doesn't really move once it's on there, it's pretty solid. But I'm going to add a screw on each side. Now, the other thing I'm going to do, since this is made to come off, I'm going to go ahead, everything else has been soldered and heat shrunk, everything on here. But what I'm going to do with these connections right here for this and the connections over there for the frequency counter is I'm going to use these JST connectors so that I can quickly unplug and lift the whole thing off if I need to. So I'm going to go ahead and get that stuff wired up and we'll be back. Okay, so I got the wiring pretty much done. This is the variable power supply input and output. This is the power supply for the frequency counter. This is going to plug into the frequency counter. This one plugs in to this one that's on the actual cover. And then this one is the one that plugs into the frequency counter for the frequency. Let me get that all hooked up. Okay, I've got it all back together again. I've run one little screw right there on the side on each side. It's on good, it's on nice and tight. Take a look inside, see what we can see in here. It's not the neatest in the world, but it's all in there. And I think it's going to be alright. So this is still my placeholder for the signal chaser once I get that operational again. And pretty happy with this. It's going to slide up against the back of the bench pretty good, I think. Let me get it in place. So there it is, sitting on the bench where it's going to be. You can see it still leaves me quite a bit of bench room to work on. And I'll have everything convenient right at my hands. So it all works. Let me see if I can get everything turned on here. I'm going to flip that light on. And let's flip on the switch here. And we got DC power coming up. There's our indicator light. I don't have my decals on here yet. I've still got to put the decals on. I'll bring you back once I get those on. Let's see, so the frequency counter will be there. And it's on. I need to get a frequency counter down here and connect up. Right now all I have is the connector that, well, you know what, I probably got one. I think what I'm going to do is order me a couple of those BNC to BNC connectors. That'll be easier. That's what I set it up for. And I'm thinking both of my signal generators are not BNC out, so we'll check that later. And obviously electronic circuit breaker. Turn it on. That's on. And we'll flip on our power supplies. And the component tester's on, and the DMM's on. And I can't test this because I don't have a radio hooked up. I've still got to make my cables, but we will. And got the signal tracer here. As you hear it, it's working. There is my variable voltage, which comes down to this jack, and it works. I checked it, so I'm pretty happy. Everything seems to be working the way I planned it to work, and I've demonstrated most of it to you. I will demonstrate all of it to you once everything is completely finished and I bring down stuff to hook up, and I have a BMC cable and a radio that I can hook up to the audio frequency, which I do have a radio. My next project I'll show you here in a minute. Okay, so a couple of things that are new projects that I didn't have up until about 2 weeks ago. Pretty excited about. You guys probably know I love signal generators. This one's in pretty rough shape. This is a Precision, called Precision Apparatus Company. So it's Precision Series E400 sweep generator. So that I want to restore. I paid $12.50 for that. They originally were asking $25, but my wife's nephew picked it up for me at an estate sale on a Sunday when everything was half price. Pretty good size. You can see the size of it based on the size of my hand. So there's that one. And then over here was the other one he picked up for me. That one over there is a scoop generator. This one's actually a signal generator. And this is an WR49A RCA. This one seems to be in a little bit better condition, a little bit newer. Again, it was $25. I got it for $12.50, so I'm pretty excited with those. But before I can work on those, he, for himself, picked up this. And asked me if I would restore it for him. And I told him yes, I would. It's actually in really nice physical condition. Very nice physical condition. He paid $25 for it. But it's a Philco 42340. And so I told him I would restore it for him. And he said I didn't have to pay him for the signal generators if I did that. So this will be the next project. Okay, so throughout this MFP project, you guys have heard me mention more than once, multiple times, that I was going to be putting my signal chaser in here. And I've had a couple people ask, well, what is a signal chaser? Well, the signal chaser I got off of another YouTube channel. Ian, can't think of his last name, but I'll put it up here, last year. And I thought it was pretty cool because it uses a 12AT7 tube, and considering I work on the stuff that pretty much uses tubes, I thought it would be cool to have the signal chaser. The signal chaser basically injects a noise signal, and where you would normally use your signal tracer and work from the antenna towards the speaker, the signal chaser does the opposite. You inject the signal starting at the speaker in the grid of the output tube and work your way back towards the antenna, so that you can do it both ways. But anyway, I thought it was a pretty cool project, so I built one, and this is it. And this is the size. You can see from the size of my hand, it's not huge. I got it all made, and it was real cool and all that sort of stuff. And so I figured it'd be nice to incorporate it in. Now it's got right now I've got a jack on the back that is more like a microphone jack going into a 50 ohm coax cable and into this probe. You can see I've got everything insulated, so you just touch the edges. Well, the problem I've got right now is it has decided to quit working. I'm still trying to figure out why. Let me kind of show you the inside. I'm going to go ahead and flip it on. You can see I've got an indicator light here. All right, indicator light on the outside. This is actually a wooden box, and I did this in the hammer paint, the silver hammer paint, same paint I used on the multifunction panel. And my plan is to actually insert this whole box in there, but I want to put a B and C jack on the back and then connect the B and C jack in the back of this to the B and C jack that I have on the front of the MFP. And then I would wire the indicator light and the switch on the MFP to power the power cord, and just leave this switch on all the time. I like this unit, but I just want to incorporate it in there. But anyway, let me show you what I got inside. First of all, it is fused, and the signal chaser requires a metal box, and the reason being is the output from the 12AT7 creates this noise, and you want it to stay within the confines of the actual probe. In order to do that, it has to be in a metal box. Well, I couldn't find a metal box at the time I built this, so I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought a wooden box, and then I lined the wooden box in galvanized metal. The lid, the sides, all of it is lined in galvanized metal. So as you can see right now, it's on, and I don't know, lights might be too bright, but the tube is on right at the moment. At least the filaments are on right now. Let's see if I can move it up a little bit. If you guys can see that or not. Not sure if you can or not. But what it is, it's a 12 volt transformer in here. I'm sorry, a 110 to 12 volt transformer in here that's powering the filaments of the 12AT7. Right now I've got to get this working again, And once I do, then I'm going to insert this box, likely laying on its side, because I think that will fit in there like this. All right? Easier than it will with this. That's why I kept telling you about the space claim, because I knew that this box had a little size to it. Depth-wise, I think it's fine. I think it's more the width-wise that I might have a little bit of an issue with. But once I get the jack resituated, I think that I can stand it up on its end. But that's what I was talking about. Anyway, I just figured I'd show you guys that. Okay, everybody, I think that this is going to wrap up the MFP. I'm going to go ahead and call it done at this point. Once I get my signal chaser corrected and get it inserted, there won't be any reason to really show a video for that other than maybe me using it to kind of demonstrate it. But the MFP is done, except for one little piece, which I ordered a little round digital AC amp meter that I'm going to probably put right here, because it's not very big. It's about the size of a quarter, just to connect up to the variable AC out, since the electronic circuit breaker is reflecting the voltage in it versus the voltage on the variable, which isn't necessarily a big deal, but I kind of wanted to read out, so I'm going to put it on there. And you guys will see that, and probably one of the next videos after I get it in there, I'll break away and just show it to you guys anyway. But anyway, I wanted to show you the final product up close with all my labels on everything. As you can see, I've got the speaker in out up there, and the 50 volts, 10 volts, 2 volts common in the cap. The label for the signal tracer, label for the signal chaser, the labels for the dummy load, the name, the model number that I created. I finished it this month, so it's Gregg's Vintage Workshop 08 of 2021. That's the model number. And then if we move down here, there's the labels for the variable voltage and the smaller DC voltages. And there's the label for that controls that. And then up here we have the frequency counter, in and out, and of course the frequency counter with the DC volts, the DC amps, the variable voltage, DC and AC. We've got the electronic circuit breaker, the entire MFP power light, got the current for the current knob going from 220 milliamps to 3 amps, which in all actuality the knob goes back further because the 220 starts about right there, and we actually are starting at about 160. Then we have the on-off switch, which obviously I turn the unit off before I turn that off. And then I've got the cycle switch from 2, 8, 16, 32 cycles for the trip time. The variable AC. Down here we have DC out, the DC AC switch, AC out, and again the variable. Component tester. Everything's good. Everything's done except for the signal chaser. So I think we're going to go ahead and call this quits into this particular series for the MFP. I hope you guys enjoyed it. My hat's off again to Doug Moslack over there at Moslack for developing his MFP and giving such a great idea that I decided I had to copy it and make it my own. And if it wasn't for him, this would never came about. So 100% gratitude to Doug and 100% hats off to him. And I know he's doing some revisions to his now. So that's what we do. We're all team, and we kind of work together, help each other out. So that's the name of the game. Anyway, from Gregg at Gregg's Vintage Workshop, thanks for watching.